Far above Earth, inside a clean silver ship that floated quietly in orbit, Zara stared at the blue planet below. She was not human. She was a Zanari, an alien from a peaceful, intelligent species that lived light years away. The Zanari had long, smooth features, glowing skin, and eyes like clear water. They were known for their knowledge and calm ways. For years, they had watched humans from space, learning everything they could without being seen. But now, for the first time in history, a Zanari had come to Earth. Zara had been chosen for this important mission. She was a young researcher, full of questions and curiosity. Her job was to study humans, understand their ways, and report back. She had read about humans in books, watched their videos, and learned their language. Still, she knew nothing would compare to meeting one in person. As her small ship landed in a quiet part of Earth's surface, Zara felt something she did not expect. Excitement. The door opened, and she stepped out onto soft grass under a warm sun. Birds sang in the trees. The air was fresh. It was so different from the cold metal halls of her ship. Waiting for her was Damon, a human ambassador. He had short black hair, brown eyes, and a calm smile. He wore a dark suit and held a small translation device. "Welcome to Earth," Damon said politely. Zara tilted her head. "Thank you. Your planet is beautiful." Together they walked to a nearby research center built just for this meeting. Damon showed her around and explained human culture. Zara asked many questions. Why do humans wear different clothes? Why do they eat so many kinds of food? What are pets? She was amazed by how colorful and emotional human life was, but one topic confused her more than anything else. "Tell me about reproduction," Zara said one day as they sat in a quiet room filled with books and screens. Damon blinked, surprised. "Reproduction? Like how humans make new humans?" "Yes," Zara said, her face serious. "I have studied your biology, but the method seems strange." Damon laughed a little, unsure if she was serious. But when he saw her calm expression, he nodded. "It's a natural process for us. It's not just about creating life. There's emotion, connection, love. It's a private part of life, something two people share when they care deeply for each other." Zara leaned forward, curious. "In my world, reproduction is done with science. We do not touch. We do not share feelings. It is quick and simple. But humans, you connect." "Yes," Damon said. "It's more than just physical. It's emotional too. That's what makes it special." Zara looked thoughtful. "Humans really do that to reproduce?" Damon smiled. "Yes, it's just how we are." She paused, then said in a calm, almost innocent voice, "Can I try?" Damon coughed, startled. "Wait, what?" "I want to understand fully," she explained. "As a researcher, to know what it means to be human, not just from reading but from feeling." Damon raised his hands. "Zara, it's not something people just try. It involves trust, feelings, time. It's not a science project." Zara looked away, clearly confused. "I see. On my planet, such things are only logic. Here, they are personal." "Yes," Damon said softly. "Very personal." The room grew quiet. For the first time since her arrival, Zara began to feel something new. Not just curiosity, but something deeper. Confusion, wonder, maybe even a little emotion. She looked out the window at the green trees swaying in the breeze. Earth was full of strange things. But maybe, just maybe, that was what made it beautiful. Zara could not stop thinking about what Damon had said. The idea of human reproduction, with its emotional depth and connection, was so different from her own species' method. The Zanari had perfected a sterile, efficient way of creating life. It was quick, without the need for emotion or personal connection. But humans were different. They built relationships, and that emotional bond seemed just as important as the physical act itself. Over the next few days, Zara spent more time with Damon, trying to understand the way humans formed these connections. She learned that human relationships weren't just about biology. They were about trust, feelings, and even pain. It was a concept that was difficult for her to grasp. One afternoon, as they walked through a park filled with flowers, Zara asked another question. Damon, when humans fall in love, do they feel safe? Damon paused, surprised by her question. Safe? He asked, looking at her with a raised eyebrow. Yes, Zara said, her eyes focused ahead. Do they feel protected, like nothing can hurt them? Damon thought for a moment. I think so. When two people truly care for each other, there's a sense of trust. They feel like they can share their deepest thoughts without fear. It's not about physical safety. It's about emotional safety. Zara was quiet as they continued walking. She had always been taught that emotions were a distraction, that logic and efficiency were the keys to success. But here, with Damon, she was beginning to see that emotions played a larger role in human life than she had ever imagined. That evening, after a long day of learning about human culture, Zara found herself sitting alone in her room aboard the research facility. Her thoughts swirled, trying to make sense of everything she had learned. What was this strange pull that she felt toward Damon? She had never experienced feelings like this before. In her world, there was no room for such confusion, but here, on Earth, emotions were everywhere. Zara pulled up a screen and searched through human studies on relationships. She found a document about love and began to read. The more she read, the more questions formed in her mind. What did it mean to love someone? What was the purpose of this emotional bond? And why was it so important to humans? The next day, Zara decided to ask Damon more questions. She needed to understand everything to truly comprehend the strange behavior of humans. She approached him after lunch, her voice serious. Damon, I've been studying your species' concept of love. It seems to be an important part of your lives. How do you know when you are in love with someone? Damon stopped walking and looked at her with a thoughtful expression. That's a good question, he said slowly. I think for me it's when you care about someone more than anything else. When their happiness matters to you as much as your own. When you want to protect them, not because you have to, but because you want to. Zara nodded, but she was still confused. But how do you know it's real? How do you know it's not just an illusion? Damon smiled softly. It's not always easy to know, but when you care for someone that deeply, it's not just a feeling, it's an action. You show them your care through your actions, not just words. You do things for them because you love them. It's not just about the feelings in your heart. It's about what you do for the other person. Zara was silent for a moment, processing his words. The idea of love as both an emotional and practical connection was something she had never considered. In her culture, relationships were based on logic, and actions were done for a purpose. But love, as Damon described it, seemed to transcend logic. It was not just about getting something out of it. It was about giving without expecting anything in return. Later that night, Zara lay awake in her room, staring at the ceiling. The questions kept swirling in her mind. What was love really like? Could she ever understand it? Could she ever feel it? Her thoughts returned to Damon. He had shown her kindness and patience, explaining things about human life that she never would have considered. She began to wonder if her feelings for him were more than just curiosity. Was it possible that she was starting to care for him in a way that went beyond just research? Zara didn't have the answers yet, but she knew one thing. She was no longer just a researcher. She was beginning to feel, to experience emotions she had never known existed. Zara woke up early the next morning. Her mind was full of thoughts she couldn't ignore. The more she stayed on Earth, the more questions she had. At first, she thought her interest in human reproduction was only for research. But now, her feelings were deeper and harder to explain. She walked into the research center where Damon was already having tea. He smiled when he saw her. "Good morning, Zara." "Good morning," she said, sitting across from him. "I could not sleep. I was thinking about what you told me yesterday, about love." Damon nodded. "It's a big idea to think about." Zara looked out the window. The sun was rising and its soft light touched the tops of the trees. "Love is not something I learned on my planet. We don't have that kind of connection. But here it seems important." "It is," Damon said. "Love changes people. It makes them better, sometimes stronger." Zara looked back at him, her voice soft. "I think I want to understand it fully, not just with my mind, but with my heart." Damon was quiet for a moment. "That's not something you can rush, Zara. Feelings take time. You get to know someone, you trust them, and then slowly something grows." Zara nodded. "I see. So love is not just about reproduction?" "No," Damon replied. "Not at all. Reproduction is just one small part. Love is about the connection between two people. It's about kindness, care, and being there for each other." Zara's eyes shone with curiosity. "Have you ever been in love?" Damon smiled a little. "Once, a long time ago. It didn't work out, but I learned a lot from it." "Did it hurt when it ended?" she asked. "Yes," he said honestly. "Love can bring joy, but it can also bring pain when it's lost." Zara thought deeply. On her planet, pain was something they avoided. Feelings were controlled, and relationships were planned for balance, not passion. But the more she heard, the more she began to wonder, was something missing in the way her people lived? That day, Zara decided to speak with other humans at the research center. She asked a young scientist named Lena about her relationship. Lena blushed and laughed, then told Zara how she had met her boyfriend, how they shared memories, how they supported each other. "He helps me when I feel tired," Lena said with a smile. "Even when I don't say it, he knows when I'm not okay." Zara found this amazing. "He understands your feelings without words?" Lena nodded. "Sometimes, yes, that's love." Zara took notes in her tablet, her mind full of wonder. Emotions were not just random. They had patterns, meaning, and deep effects on how people lived. Later that evening, Zara returned to Damon. She sat beside him on a bench outside the building. The stars were starting to appear in the sky. "I spoke with Lena today," she said. "She said her partner knows how she feels without her saying anything. Is that really possible?" "It is," Damon replied. "When you spend time with someone, you begin to understand them deeply. Sometimes words aren't needed." Zara looked at him quietly. I want to feel that. I want to understand someone that deeply, and I want someone to understand me." Damon turned toward her. "Zara, you're already on that path. Understanding takes time, but it starts with honesty and care." Zara nodded. "I feel something when I'm with you. It's new and strange. It makes my heart beat faster and my thoughts become soft." Damon smiled gently. "That sounds like the beginning of something special." Zara smiled too, her expression calm but bright. She was no longer just a visitor or a researcher. She was slowly becoming something more, someone who could feel, who could care, and maybe someone who could love. As Zara spent more time on Earth, her thoughts about human emotions and relationships only deepened. Every conversation with Damon, every interaction with the humans around her, made her realize how much she had yet to understand. But what fascinated her most was how different humans were from her own kind. The Zanari had no need for emotions like love or connection. They had evolved to be efficient, logical beings, and their method of reproduction was quick and calculated. It was something they did out of necessity, not passion. The idea of intimacy, of two beings sharing their deepest feelings, their fears, their hopes, was foreign to them. And yet, it was central to the way humans lived. Zara often found herself questioning her own species' way of life. Was their efficiency truly the best way? Did their cold logic make them stronger? Or did it leave them empty? In the quiet moments, when she sat alone or walked through the peaceful earth parks, she wondered if her people had been wrong. What if there was something more to life than just survival? One evening, after spending the day observing humans in a bustling city, Zara met Damon for their usual walk. They were walking through a quiet garden, the air thick with the scent of flowers. The sounds of the city were distant, replaced by the peaceful chirping of insects. "Zara," Damon began, breaking the silence. "I've noticed you've been thinking a lot. Is everything okay?" Zara looked at him. "I don't know, I feel different. I'm learning so much about humans, but there's something I can't understand. Why do you value emotions so much? Why not just focus on survival and logic, like my people do?" Damon stopped walking and turned to face her. His expression was thoughtful. "You know, Zara, humans don't just live to survive. We live to experience the world. We feel happiness, sadness, love, and loss. They make us who we are. Without emotions, life would be empty." Zara thought about this carefully. "But are emotions not a weakness? On my planet, feelings are seen as distractions. We focus on logic because it keeps us safe, it keeps us strong." Damon smiled gently. "I think emotions make us stronger in a way. They help us connect with others, build relationships, and face the challenges in life. Without them, everything would feel cold. We wouldn't care about anyone, and no one would care about us. Life would be lonely." Zara felt a strange sensation in her chest. She had never heard the concept of loneliness explained like that before. On her world, loneliness was a word they barely understood. They lived in harmony, but there was little need for true connection. "Do you think emotions are necessary for growth?" Zara asked quietly. Damon's smile softened. "I do. Emotions shape us. They teach us about ourselves, about others, and about the world around us. Love can make you stronger, but it can also make you vulnerable. It's a balance, but it's one that's worth it." Zara looked down, her mind racing. Could she learn to feel the way humans did? Could she ever understand love, not just as an idea, but as something real? It felt like a puzzle she wasn't sure she could solve. But the more she spent time on Earth, the more she felt drawn to the idea of connection. She wanted to experience it, to feel it with someone. As they continued walking, Damon spoke again. "Zara, I think you're starting to understand more than you realize. You've already begun to feel what it's like to care. It's not something you can force, but you're on the right path. You're changing, and that's a beautiful thing." Zara felt a warmth spread through her, something she had never felt before. For the first time, she wasn't just an observer. She was becoming part of the world around her, part of humanity. She turned to Damon, her voice soft. "I think I want to learn more about love, about connections. I want to understand what it means to truly care for someone, not just as a researcher, but as a person." Damon's eyes softened. "I think that's the most important thing you can do. Learn with your heart, Zara. Let yourself feel as They walked back to the research center. Zara's mind was buzzing with new ideas. She had come to Earth to study, but now she realized that she was learning more than she had ever imagined. She was beginning to understand emotions, connections, and what it meant to truly be alive. Zara didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she felt like she was on the path to discovering something that had always been beyond her reach. And the more she thought about it, the more she realized that perhaps the most important lesson of all was not about logic or survival, but about love. Zara couldn't stop thinking about the conversation she had with Damon in the garden. His words about love and emotions had stuck with her, tugging at her thoughts. It was as if a whole new world was opening up before her, one that she had never considered before. The more she thought about it, the more she realized how little she understood about the true nature of human relationships. She spent the next few days observing humans more closely. In the research center, she saw how they interacted with each other. There was laughter, kindness, and moments of quiet connection. It was not always easy to see the full picture, but Zara was starting to notice patterns. When someone was in pain, others would comfort them. When someone succeeded, their friends would celebrate. It was a web of emotions, a mix of joy, sadness, trust, and vulnerability. Zara found herself drawn to these interactions. She began to understand that emotions weren't just feelings, they were actions. When humans cared for each other, they showed it in ways that words couldn't explain. A simple touch, a smile, a shared moment of silence. These things meant something. Zara had never realized how much emotion played a role in making life meaningful. One evening, she decided to talk to Damon again. She felt a need to understand more, to learn from him. As the sun set and painted the sky with shades of orange and pink, they sat on the roof of the research center, looking out at the horizon. "Damon," Zara began, her voice a little uncertain, "I've been watching humans closely. I see how you care for each other, how you share your feelings. I think I'm starting to understand. But I still have so many questions." Damon smiled gently, sensing her confusion. "I'm happy to help, Zara. Ask anything." Zara hesitated for a moment. What does it feel like? To love someone? To care about them beyond just friendship? Damon took a deep breath, looking out at the view. "It feels like everything becomes more meaningful. When you love someone, it's like you see the world through a different lens. You notice things that matter more, the small details, the way someone smiles, the way they laugh. It's all special." Zara nodded, processing his words. "But is it always easy? Is it always good?" Damon paused. "No, love isn't always easy. It can be painful. People make mistakes, and sometimes things don't work out the way you hope. But that's part of being human. It's the ups and downs that make the highs feel so much better." Zara was quiet, thinking about the idea of pain. On her planet, there was no room for pain. It was something to avoid, something to control. But here it seemed that pain was not something to be feared. It was a part of life, a necessary part of growth. "What happens when it hurts?" Zara asked. "When you lose someone you care about?" Damon's expression softened. "It's hard, really hard, but you learn from it. You carry those memories with you and they help shape you into a stronger person. It's not easy, but it's a part of life." Zara thought about this for a long time. She'd seen how humans could face pain, yet still find ways to move forward. In her world, pain was something to be avoided at all costs. But maybe, just maybe, humans were right. Maybe pain wasn't the enemy. Maybe it was a part of the process of becoming who you were meant to be. The evening grew quieter, the stars beginning to twinkle in the sky. Zara felt a strange comfort in Damon's words. She didn't fully understand everything yet, but she was starting to feel something new, a feeling she hadn't known before. She turned to Damon, her voice soft. "Damon, I think I understand now. Love, it's not just about feelings. It's about the choices you make, the actions you take. It's about trust and understanding." Damon looked at her, his eyes warm. "Exactly. It's about choosing someone every day, even when it's hard, even when things aren't perfect. It's about being there for each other." Zara smiled, a small but real smile. She wasn't sure if she was ready to love in the way humans did, but she knew one thing for sure. She was ready to try, she was ready to learn. For the first time in her life, Zara felt open to something she couldn't control, something as wild and uncertain as human emotions. As they sat there watching the stars, Zara felt a sense of peace she had never known. She was no longer just an observer of humanity. She was part of it, in a way she never expected. And though she still had many questions, she knew she was on the path to understanding something much bigger than herself. Zara's time on Earth had changed her in ways she hadn't expected. As each day passed, her understanding of human emotions and relationships deepened. She was no longer the detached observer she had once been. Now she found herself feeling, thinking, and questioning things she never had before. It was the small moments that got to her the most. Watching two humans share a quiet conversation over lunch, or seeing someone help another without expecting anything in return, made her heart feel different. It was as though her mind and emotions were slowly awakening to something more complex, something beyond logic and reason. But there was one thing that kept bothering Zara. Though she felt these new emotions, she wasn't sure how to express them. The more time she spent with Damon, the stronger her feelings for him became. She cared about him, not just as a fellow researcher, but as something more. But how could she explain what she felt? How could she tell him that she wasn't just curious anymore, but that she was beginning to feel something deeper? Zara decided that it was time to take the next step, to face this strange new feeling she couldn't ignore. She needed to talk to Damon. She needed to understand where she stood. One afternoon, as the sun began to dip behind the horizon, Zara found Damon on the balcony of the research center. He was staring out at the city, his hands resting on the railing, lost in thought. Zara approached him quietly, her heart racing. "Damon," she said softly, her voice hesitant. Damon turned to face her, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Hey, Zara, you okay?" Zara took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. She had never been one to openly share her feelings, especially not with another person. But she knew this was different. She needed to understand. I've been thinking a lot lately," Zara began, her voice a little shaky. "About everything. About what it means to be human and about how emotions work." Damon nodded, his expression kind and patient. "I know. It's a lot to process." Zara looked down at her hands. "I'm not just a researcher anymore, Damon. I've started to feel things, real things, and it's confusing." Damon's gaze softened, and he took a small step closer to her. "Zara, you're not alone in this. I know it's hard to understand everything right away. Emotions are complicated, but you're doing great. You're learning." Zara met his eyes. "It's more than just learning, Damon. I think I'm starting to care about you. Not just as a fellow researcher, but as someone I trust, someone I feel something for." There was a brief silence. Damon's eyes widened in surprise, but then he smiled gently, as though he had been waiting for her to say it all along. "Zara, I've noticed. I've seen how you've changed. You're not just curious anymore. You're becoming someone who understands what it means to care, to love. And it's a beautiful thing." Zara felt a warmth in her chest, a feeling she couldn't quite explain, but one that felt comforting and real. For a moment, the world seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of them standing there, connected by something deeper than words. Do you think it's possible for someone like me to learn what love truly is?" Zara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Damon's smile widened, and he gently reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I think you already are. Love isn't just about knowing everything or being perfect. It's about being open, being honest, and letting yourself feel, and you're doing all of those things. You're learning." Zara closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the truth of his words. It wasn't about trying to fit into a perfect mold. It was about embracing the unknown, the messy, the beautiful moments that made life meaningful. "I don't know if I'm ready for all of it," Zara said softly, "but I want to try. I want to see where this goes. With you." Damon looked at her with such warmth that it made Zara's heart race. "I'm glad to hear that, Zara. I want to try too. Let's figure this out together." For the first time, Zara felt something she had never known before, a sense of peace, of hope. She wasn't alone in this journey. She had Damon, and she had herself. Together, they could explore what it meant to care for someone, to trust, to love. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the horizon, Zara realized that she was no longer just observing life. She was living it, and she was ready to take the next step, whatever it might be. The days following Zara's confession were full of quiet changes. She had felt a shift inside herself, something more than just curiosity. It was a new sense of purpose, a deeper connection to Damon and to the humans around her. But with this new feeling came questions, big, important questions that Zara was still trying to answer. Zara had never imagined she would feel so much. On her planet, everything was controlled, planned. Feelings weren't given room to grow. But here, on Earth, emotions were like wild plants, unpredictable, growing in unexpected directions. And Zara wasn't sure if she was ready to navigate this new world. Her mind raced with thoughts of Damon. Since their conversation on the balcony, they had spent more time together, sharing meals, working side by side at the research center. Every moment with him was a step closer to understanding this thing called love. But even as she grew closer to him, Zara found herself feeling unsure. What if she wasn't ready for all the things love entailed? What if the pain that came with it was too much to bear? Zara found herself out in the park one afternoon, walking alone and thinking deeply. The sky above was a soft blue and the air was warm. She had been reading more about human relationships, trying to understand how they worked. There were so many layers to human emotions: anger, joy, sadness, love. They all mixed together in complex ways that Zara didn't yet fully grasp. But the more she learned, the more she felt the pull to keep exploring. Just as she was lost in thought, she heard a voice behind her. "Zara?" She turned to see Damon walking toward her. His smile was gentle, but there was a hint of concern in his eyes. "Hey, Damon," she said, her voice soft. "What's up?" He stopped in front of her. "I wanted to talk to you about something. I know we've been spending a lot of time together, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page." Zara blinked, a little surprised. "What do you mean?" Damon took a deep breath, his hands in his pockets. "I care about you, Zara, a lot. But I also know that this is new for you. I want to make sure you're not feeling pressured. This is all new for both of us, and I don't want you to feel like you have to figure everything out right away." Zara felt a warm feeling spread through her chest. She had never had anyone be so honest with her, so considerate of her feelings. I don't know if I'm ready either. I don't know what it means to love someone. or if I can even feel it the way humans do." Damon nodded, his expression understanding. "That's okay. You don't have to have all the answers right now. Love isn't something that can be rushed. It's about taking things one step at a time." Zara smiled, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. She realized that it was okay to not have all the answers. She didn't have to know everything right away. She could take her time, learn, and grow at her own pace. "But I want to try," she said, her voice steady now. "I want to learn. I want to understand what it means to be with someone, to trust them and care for them." Damon's smile grew warmer. "I'm glad to hear that. We'll figure it out together. No pressure, just one step at a time." Zara took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief. For the first time since she arrived on Earth, she felt like she wasn't alone in this. She had Damon by her side, and together they could face whatever came next. As they walked side by side through the park, Zara felt a new sense of peace. She didn't know what the future held, but she was no longer afraid of it. She was ready to take this journey, to experience the highs and lows of love, to face whatever challenges it might bring. And no matter what happened, she knew she would have Damon's support. The path ahead was still uncertain, but Zara felt confident in the choice she had made. She was learning what it meant to be human, to feel, to care, and to trust. And that was enough for now. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, Zara smiled to herself. She had taken the first step, and that was all she needed to do. Days turned into weeks, and Zara found herself becoming more and more comfortable with the idea of emotions. Though she still had much to learn, she was no longer afraid of the feelings that had once seemed so overwhelming. Damon had become a steady presence in her life, someone she trusted and cared for deeply. He had helped her understand that love wasn't a thing to be rushed or forced. It was something to be experienced, step by step. Zara's research had also shifted. No longer was she just studying humans from an academic perspective. She was now exploring what it meant to feel, to truly understand the depth of connection that humans shared with one another. It was different from anything she had learned before. Emotions couldn't be explained away by logic. They had to be lived. One evening, as the sun set in the sky, Zara and Damon sat together in a small cafe, the sound of quiet conversation and clinking cups filling the air. They had spent the day working at the research center, but tonight they had decided to take a break and simply enjoy each other's company. "I've been thinking," Damon said, stirring his coffee slowly, his gaze focused on the cup, "about everything we've talked about love, emotions, and us." Zara felt her heart skip a beat. She had grown so used to being with Damon, to the way they talked and laughed together, that it was hard to imagine life without him. But there was still a part of her that felt unsure. She had never been in a relationship before, and the idea of love was still a mystery to her. "What have you been thinking?" Zara asked, her voice soft but curious. Damon looked up at her, his eyes filled with warmth. "I think we're moving in the right direction. I think you're starting to understand what love is. It's not just about feelings, but about trust and respect. About being there for each other, no matter what." Zara smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. "I think I'm starting to get it too. It's more than just the way we feel in the moment. It's about sharing experiences, supporting each other through hard times, and growing together." Damon reached across the table and took her hand, his touch gentle but firm. "Exactly. And it's okay if we don't have everything figured out yet. We're learning together. We'll make mistakes, but that's part of it. What matters is that we're here for each other." Zara felt her chest tighten, a warm, unfamiliar feeling bubbling inside her. She had never experienced anything like this before. She had always lived in a world where logic and efficiency were the guiding principles. But here, With Damon, it felt different. It felt like there was something bigger than logic. A connection, a bond that didn't need to be explained, just felt. "You're right," Zara said, her voice quiet but confident. "I've always tried to understand everything with my mind, but love, it's something I need to feel with my heart, and I think I'm starting to feel it." Damon's smile deepened, and he squeezed her hand. "I'm glad to hear that, Zara. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Learning to feel." They sat in comfortable silence for a few moments, just enjoying each other's company. The cafe around them buzzed with life, but in that moment, it felt like they were in their own world, a world they had created together. As the evening wore on, they finished their drinks and stood up to leave. Outside, the air was cool and the stars were beginning to appear in the sky. Zara looked up at the stars, feeling a sense of wonder she had never known before. "Do you ever think about what's next?" Zara asked, her voice thoughtful. Damon paused, looking up at the stars with her. "All the time. But I think we're on the right path. We've got time. We don't need to rush anything. We're figuring this out together." Zara nodded, feeling a sense of certainty settle in her heart. She didn't need to have all the answers. She didn't need to know exactly where they were going. All she needed was to keep moving forward with Damon by her side. One step at a time. As they walked through the quiet streets, Zara felt the bond between them growing stronger. She was no longer the alien who had come to study humans from a distance. She was part of this world now. She was learning what it meant to be human, not just in the mind, but in the heart. And with Damon beside her, she knew that whatever challenges the future held, she wouldn't have to face them alone. Zara stood at the edge of the balcony, looking out over the city. The lights twinkled below, the streets busy with life, but it felt like everything had slowed down in that moment. She took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill her lungs. It had been a long journey, one that had taken her far from the familiar world she had known. But now, here she was, standing in a place that felt more like home than any place she had ever been. It was hard to believe how much had changed in such a short time. When Zara had first arrived on Earth, she had been an outsider, observing humans from a distance. But now, after months of learning, questioning and feeling, she no longer saw herself as an observer. She was a part of this world, a part of something much bigger than herself. Damon joined her on the balcony, his presence as steady and comforting as ever. He stood beside her, his hands resting on the railing, his eyes following the same path as hers. "Are you okay?" Damon asked, his voice soft but full of care. Zara turned to him, a smile tugging at her lips. "Yeah, I'm just thinking." Damon looked at her with a knowing smile. "I know. I've seen that look before. It's the I'm figuring something out look." Zara laughed softly, the sound light and full of warmth. "I guess you could say that. I've been thinking about how far we've come, about everything we've learned together." Damon nodded, his eyes meeting hers. "It hasn't always been easy, but we've done it together. And that's what matters." Zara's heart swelled at his words. She realized now how much Damon had helped her. He had been there every step of the way, guiding her when she was lost, supporting her when she was unsure. He had shown her what it meant to care, to trust, and to love. "I never imagined it would be like this," Zara said, her voice quiet but full of emotion. "I came here to study humans, to understand their behavior. But I never thought I would experience it for myself. I didn't know what it meant to feel, not just in my mind, but in my heart." Damon stepped closer to her, his hand brushing hers. "You've come a long way, Zara. You've learned more than you think." Zara looked at him, her eyes searching his face for a moment before speaking again. And you've been there with me the whole time. You've taught me so much. Damon smiled, his expression warm and reassuring. I'm glad I could be here for you. You've taught me a lot too, you know. Zara blinked, surprised. Taught you? Damon chuckled. Yeah, I've learned a lot from you. You've shown me that love isn't just about the easy moments. It's about the tough ones too. It's about growing, making mistakes, and still being there for each other. Zara felt a lump form in her throat. The emotions she had learned to navigate had suddenly become so clear. It wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about always having the answers. It was about being open to the unknown and trusting the journey, no matter where it led. I've been thinking about that too, Zara said. How love isn't just a feeling. It's an action. It's a choice. And I choose you, Damon. I choose to be here with you. Damon's eyes softened, and he reached out to gently take her hand. And I choose you, Zara. Every day. For a long moment, they simply stood there, their hands entwined, looking out at the city together. In that silence, Zara realized that this was the moment she had been waiting for. The moment when everything she had learned, everything she had felt came together. This was her new beginning. Thank you, Zara whispered, her voice full of gratitude. Thank you for helping me find my place here. Damon squeezed her hand gently, his smile full of warmth. There's no need to thank me. You've found your place all on your own. We're just walking this journey together. Zara smiled back, her heart full. She no longer felt like an outsider. She was a part of something bigger now, a part of this world, a part of humanity, and a part of Damon's life. And as she looked at him, she knew one thing for sure. No matter what the future held, they would face it together, step by step, and that was all she needed.